good morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live, like every Wednesday at 11 sharp. Lately, we're being on time.
That's because you show up on time.
Of course. So, Valentine's Day was Monday. Also, Valentine's Day was early voting the same day. And today I'm in red because, I'm still in a mode. And that day I went to vote. Here is the proof. That's what I dedicate my Valentine's. Early in the morning, I went to vote, and I dedicated for the city, for the Harris County, for the state, for what is important for me. Then I went to facial. I went to give me love.
And I see that your pendant must have been given to you by your sweet Valentine, the
No,
heart.
no, it's, to myself.
Oh, it's a gift to yourself.
Yeah, the first love that you do is to yourself. When you
Ah,
love yourself, you can
you
love.
can't love anyone else if you don't love yourself, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's what I give in
Well, then
Valentine's
you've got
Day.
a lot of love to give around. I'll tell you that.
Let's. Who's talking?
Okay, welcome everybody. Let me just tell you again, for those of you in Harris County, you know that our new leadership in Harris County at the Commissioner's Court, meaning Lena Hidalgo, Rodney Ellis, and Adrian Garcia, who signed an agreement they didn't have to sign to reform the bail bond system to let out violent criminals with, you know, a bad past. It happened again. Last night, two Harris County deputy sheriffs were shot by a man, here we go, surprisingly, on personal recognizance bond, meaning he was charged with some kind of violation of the criminal code, and a judge in Harris County decided to put him back out on the streets to roam around with the hardworking, law abiding taxpayers and police officers. And what happened? Fortunately, they survived, but two deputy sheriffs were shot again by someone let out in the reformed criminal justice system of Harris County. That didn't have to happen.
On
So,
Monday night, a 9 years old girl also.
tragedy, I was about to go there. Two women have been shot. Well, two victims have been shot and killed at the same ATM. Again, probably by some perpetrator that continues to commit violent crimes. Unfortunately, it was a beautiful 9-year old little girl in the back of a family pickup truck on the way to enjoy pizza for Thanksgiving and was
No,
shot
for
in
Valentine's Day.
for I'm sorry for I'm still and was shot in the head. I mean, these tragedies don't need to happen in our county. And and
Six
and
kids.
and the sad thing about this is that it's easy to fix it. All of the three commissioners, the three Democrat commissioners on the Harris County Commissioners Court need to do is go back to the scheduled bail bond system that was fair and yes, make some adjustments for indigent misdemeanor cases, which was the problem to begin with, and I agree with. They can fix it overnight like that. And they just sit on their hands and do nothing while law abiding taxpayers are being gunned down and peace officers are being gunned down. Of course, I'm surprised that Miss Hidalgo, our county judge, hasn't taken to the microphones again and blamed those nasty guns and the law abiding, Second Amendment loving Texans that are obeying the law because, at the end of the day, it's about coming after the guns of the legal gun owners, the law abiding gun owners. Don't worry about the criminals. We'll turn those out loose. So, anyway, that's my editorial comment. Also, I'm leaving early, Andrea. I'm going to have to leave you to your own devices.
It's okay. I can stay with our
Ben?
second guest.
Yeah. So I'm going to slip out early. I apologize. I'm on the board of a hospital. But speaking of hospitals and healthcare, we have a very important guest, a candidate for the Texas House of Representatives down in the Galveston County area in what's known as House District 23. And it's Dr. Gina Smith. So, Gina, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here.
Gina, thank you so much for your time, and I know you're very busy. We're showing now your website, and I wanted you to tell us. I mean, you're a doctor in psychology, but and then you've been dedicating your time a lot of volunteer with veterans. So let's start with your background. Tell us a little bit of your background, and then you tell us why you decide to run for office.
Sure. Well, first, I was listening beforehand. I want to thank you for voting. it's vital that we get out and vote, and we make our voices heard. Like I said, I'm a psychologist. I treat first responders and veterans. I have been doing that my entire career. I used to work in suicide, actually, in my early 20s. And what happened was in 2008, I saw that in 2018, I saw that we had a serious issue, and our streets were under attack. Our children were under attack. We had a school shooting down here in Santa Fe. I don't know if you all remember that.
Yes, of course.
That's in our backyard here, and that is very near and dear to my heart. And we had part of the county, actually, part of this district is Chambers County, and we had an airplane crash that a few months after the school shooting. We had riots with BLM, and we had an all-time high, actually, of suicide with police officers. And this was affecting my practice. I felt like there were not enough people who were speaking up. There were certainly not enough politicians, and I could not understand why that was. And so I looked for help. I looked for anyone to do the job that I really did not want to do, which was run for a political office. I was happy running my practice, raising my 6-year-old little girl, Charlie, being married to my wonderful husband, Kenny. And but when there is no one to help, then you are your help. You are your own rescue. And so I opened a candidacy to run for a public office. And the campaign has been incredible. People are looking for someone who's from outside of politics, who's not yet been sucked into the stereotypical political mass that happens in Austin and within these governmental systems. And I mean, you're really talking about that, Orlando, as we were coming into this. These folks, they're detached from our communities. They do not understand what is going on in the communities. I live here, I work here, and I treat the people who serve us on our most basic levels. These are the people who sit in my office every single day. So that's a little bit about why I'm running, and a little bit about me.
I want to talk a little bit about, because there's I guess I'm going to call it an epidemic in this country. I want to focus on one aspect of it, and that's teen suicide. I was talking to someone the other night, and I can't remember if it was you, Andrea, or somebody else, but we were talking about the algorithms on certain platforms, let's just say like TikTok. And these folks were telling me that, if you have a female on TikTok and she's depressed, that these algorithms kind of continue to drive that depression. They take them to websites that just take you deeper and deeper and deeper into a depression. And I want to know if that's true, Gina. Are these platforms directing our kids in a direction that is not healthy for them?
Well, I don't know necessarily about that, but what I do know is that the algorithms, they will continue to play what you are watching. So if you're watching something that is sad, then they will continue to play something that is sad, and it will push you, it'll get you more of the same and that is in of itself going to be harmful. So, when we think about kids, and kids naturally just, sometimes they get melancholy, they're moody. I worked with teenagers, and actually I worked with elementary school children also that were high risk youth, that were from impoverished areas when I was in graduate school back in Chicago. And those kids are already at risk, and children are just naturally going to be at risk, especially since the pandemic. We cut them off from their social circles, and we then put masks on them, and we cut them off from human contact, which these are social, children are social beings, and we're all social beings, but children especially, that's where they get their sense of self. It's where they learn to emotionally regulate themselves. And so if they're not getting that, and then their routine is completely upset because schools are closed and because they can't go to baseball and they can't go to soccer and, you know, the things that have made them feel normal, routine gives us safety. And when their routine was disrupted, it created a problem. And we're now seeing the ramifications of that. I think we were seeing the ramifications of that through the kids during the pandemic, but now it is blaring. And
You know,
it's because we're not separated anymore.
yeah, and I want to ask you because you're a healthcare, a mental health care professional.
Hmm.
From a legislative perspective, is there a role for government, the state legislature, to play in the mental health of our youth, for any or
Yes.
anybody? But and if so, what sort of legislation or what kind of proposals could be made to help this? I call it an epidemic of teen suicide.
It is an epidemic. You are spot on. You know, the big part of this, I'm a small government gal, so I like each of our areas, our counties, our cities to have a lot of autonomy. We do have an opportunity at the legislative level to look at school reform and to be able to put forward a curricula or to allow for organizations to come in to support the schools. Chuck Norris has an organization that comes in and kids martial arts. That has been a wildly successful program, and that raises their self-esteem and their confidence and their togetherness, giving them a home to you know, when maybe they don't feel like they have anybody at home. So it plucks out those high risk children. The other thing that as a legislative body that we're able to do is not just empowering those nonprofits, but we can empower our teachers. Our teachers are burdened, and they are, you know, the school system is overworked, and we need school choice. We need parents to be able to have money to follow the children to whatever school that parent decides that their kid is going to grow and to flourish at. So my child goes to a private school. I wanted her to learn about Jesus because that was a priority to me and my husband. And that money should be able to follow her. And that's also how there's good research behind the fact that when we have school choice and the money follows the kid, that our public school systems get better.
Yeah.
That's really, really important. There's a lot of people who are against school choice and they don't realize that the statistics and the actually show us, the research shows us that it improves the overall public school system. And it gives our teachers the opportunity to have smaller classroom sizes, but you still have tax dollars that are flowing into the school. So this is imperative. When kids are going to have smaller class sizes, they're going to be seen. When I was working, I used to work for the National Suicide Hotline, and I ran a research program for them where we called, I revamped a program for them where we would call people back who were either in the process of completing suicide or the suicide had failed. And we would call these people back if they lived, and we would say, hey, why did you call? And what helped you stop completing the suicide? And you know what they said? It was hope. Hope. It was being connected, that someone on the other line could hear them and could see them. This is what we need to be providing to our children. We need to let them be seen. Well, how do you do that in a class that has 30 kids? You don't. And so you make the classroom size smaller, you're going to see those kids. I treat trauma for a living, and so there are people who come into my office. Early in my practice, I used to treat civilians, and I would see people who had severe childhood trauma. And you know, one of the most interesting things that they would say when I would say, what's the one thing that you can think of from your childhood that was hopeful? Who was hopeful in your life that made you feel seen? And it was always a teacher. Always. And that was the anchor point. That teacher was the anchor point to which that person was able to have healing in their life and have freedom from the bonds of their trauma. So it is imperative that we are supporting our school systems, and we desperately need to have some education reform, and we desperately need
Yeah.
school choice.
You know, Doctor, I was mentioning at the beginning of the program that I went to vote on the first day of early voting. I like to vote early voting all the time. And
Good.
and I made it very significant because it was a Valentine's Day and I was giving love to myself. And part to give love to myself is to go and vote. I'm from Colombia. I'm not from this country, but as soon as I became a U.S. citizen, the first thing that I started doing it was voting. For me, it's very important, and I always vote in every election. And it took my attention that not only was voting for candidates, but also it was different propositions. And you were talking about school, and so it said that in Republican voters will have the option to vote in favor or in opposition to the following ballot propositions. But um, some of them it was voter security, eliminate property taxes, but vaccine mandate, parents' right and critical race theory, right to life, committee chairs, election integrity, gender modification, parental education relief, and freedom of conscience. So
Yes.
that's what you're talking about. You know, we need to also vote for those things because we are in a really, really critical crisis in education, in the public education, in not only in Texas but around the country. So
Yes.
it was very interesting seeing those propositions, and I think people need to do their homework before they go to vote because some of the candidates I didn't know, and I was like, okay, so if you are listening to this show and you haven't voted, it's very important to go to make your homework, to know your candidate, and to know about these propositions and vote conscious.
Yes, absolutely. We need to be informed, and we need to make sure that we are getting out to the polls. This is, you know, it's it has been incredibly important to realize that the primary is where you create the most amount of change. Our general elections are vital, but it is also, if we continue to see the same people over and over again, our primaries are the area where you vote in the new person. That's where you support someone else. So I want to encourage everybody to get out there and vote, and in this primary, not just in our general elections, and even in your runoffs. Right, the runoffs are going to be in the next few months, and hopefully you all don't end up in a runoff up in Harris County. Hopefully you have a landslide and then a turnover, and because you need it. You know, we need change. What happens in Harris County is affecting what's going on down here in Galveston County too,
Of course.
and that really does matter to us.
Well, Gina,
And so we have a vested interest in what's going on up there. And bond reform it's impacting us. I see it every day on the streets, every day, especially in my neighborhood.
well, we understand that you've got a hard stop at about 11:20. So, just to give you the last words, what can folks do to help you? How can they get in contact with you? How do they learn more about your issues? I guess we lost Gina. Huh. Okay, well, we want to thank Gina for participating in the program. You can check her out on the website. What is her website? It's Gina Smith for state rep.
drginasmith.com.
Okay, drginasmith.com is her website. All right, just as a reminder, oh, Gina's back. So if you want to jump in, I don't know what happened, Gina. We lost you for a moment. So I know you have to leave, but just tell folks what they can do to help you, how they can learn more about your issues.
You can go to drginasmith.com, and you can go out and vote today and vote for me. I'm the first one on the ballot, Gina D. Smith. And you can always come and support the campaign if you're outside the district by coming and donating. I'd love to hear from all of you. I'd like to hear what your issues are and ways that I can support you.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and good luck to you in the primary election.
Thank you so much. We're going strong.
All right.
Yes,
Good
doctor,
luck.
thank you so much.
All right. Next up is
Benny Flores, and he's running for State Representative District 111.
111.
Number one. 111. So here is his website, and I was talking to him this morning, and I sent him the link. And well, Benny, thank you so much. Muchas gracias por tu tiempo. Thank you for not only for your time today, but for your time to running for office, because it takes time, dedication, passion, and love. I just say for your country, not only for the city, for the district, but just for the country.
Yes, yes. It's interesting, the last candidate you just talked to, many of those issues she spoke about are the same things happening here in North Texas. We have politicians like DA Cruzo. He's saying, well, if you don't steal over $750, I'm not going to prosecute. We have issues like that, and we need our politicians to be present. My opponent has a house in Plano, and we're down here in Duncanville, Grand Prairie, DeSoto, but she keeps a little apartment in Duncanville. You need to be present to see what's going on in the community. I frequently check my next door neighbor, and they tell us about the catalytic converters getting stolen. We recently, this past month, or I believe it was this month, had a young lady killed about a mile or two away from our house. Last year, we had a little boy murdered, and it was by same experience that you just talked about. It was somebody that was let out, not identified as somebody that was real dangerous. And the neighbors had called about this person and over again, saying this person was walking around the neighborhood, getting into conflicts with neighbors. And then finally he acted out against a young child. And just a lady walking in the morning found the young child dead. He kidnapped that child out of his house. And so a lot of the things we're running on, the Republican candidates, are common sense issues, just common sense to don't defund the police.
Yeah.
Let's have safe streets. Let's have good education. Right now, DeSoto High School is being investigated for improprieties and not managing it well. So there are inches of being absorbed by Dallas ISD. That used to be a great school district. I've talked to a lot of people in the area, and they went there. What happened? What happened? We have politicians that aren't responsible. And then people that ask me, well, what is your grand plan to fix this? I say, follow the rules. When Texas gave Dallas $75 million to do after-school tutoring in English and bilingual tutoring, they didn't do it. And then finally, the Texas State Board asked for the money back. And then all of a sudden, they said, okay, we'll get it going. What happened to $75 million?
There's nothing more disrespectful than the people that you elect to enforce the criminal code in the state of Texas, that is your local district attorney and your judges, disregard the value of private property. And that's exactly what's going on in this state. You have district attorneys in urban areas that don't believe that a $750 laptop that you bought your child for his or her education that happened to be left by the child in the back seat of the car is worth it. That the criminal has the advantage that he or she can take your property and there is no consequence for that. In fact, here in Harris County, Benny, we have burglary of a motor vehicle that occurs all the time. They consider it, the criminal justice system in Harris County considers that a low level misdemeanor. But what they're taking, in addition to a laptop, might be a handgun that's owned legally by a citizen. Those handguns are sold in the black market to other criminals, and those handguns are being used in violent crimes by repeat offenders set out on personal recognizance bonds by the local judges. That to me is the most disrespectful form of government, and it's happening in Harris County, and from what I'm hearing from you, it's happening up in the metroplex, and it's
Yes.
unfortunate. It's just unfortunate.
Similar again, like your last interview person. I didn't look to run for office. I have a family. I have a business. I'm happy. I have my identity in that. I didn't look to run for office to find my identity, but when I see all my neighbors hurting, and friends and family, I felt obligated to do it.
Hey,
Before I was a helper of people, and then I didn't see anybody stepping up.
Benny,
And
I
this
have a. I'm,
person,
I'm not. I'm not going to be able to stay very long, but I am very interested in because one of the things that we have been talking about at Texas Latino Conservatives for the last year is the overwhelming number of Latinos, Hispanics, Tejanos, whatever you want to call us,
yes,
that are flocking to the Republican Party, to the conservative movement in this state. And I want to know about your background. I mean, where are you from?
okay,
Where is your ancestry from? Where are your parents from? In other words, what
sure,
drove you into the Republican Party? Because if you look at the media, if you follow Telemundo and Univision and all the media outlets, the Republicans hate Hispanics. They hate
yeah,
immigrants, and I'm
right,
looking around at South Texas, and I'm looking around all over the state of Texas, and I mean from Midland down to Alvin, up to Plano, down to Harlingen, we got Hispanics in record numbers competing in
yes.
the Republican primary. So what drove you into the to seek a Republican nomination?
Well, I was born and raised in Oak Cliff here in Dallas. I grew up at a church called El Buen Samaritano, the Good Samaritan Church, and as we grew up, we heard the same spill from the media. You vote Democrat. But as we got older, we were becoming educated. We started to notice, our families. Our families are conservative. We go to church. We believe in work. We believe in a justice, and we started to see that our values were not those of the Democratic Party. We started seeing the difference. You know, we promote faith and family, and we didn't see that coming from the other party. So it was a natural thing to happen as the population of Latinos, Hispanics uh, become more educated. They can distinguish between what's coming out on the TV, on the media, and what's actually real on the ground.
Yeah, I'm going to
Uh,
interrupt you real quick. This is my last question, Benny, and I'm going to slip
sure.
out because you said something important. Do you believe that the liberal left in this country sees the competition for values by the church, by religious institutions? In other words, it's the government that wants to inculcate values, and they are antagonistic towards institutions of faith in this country. Do you see that? Because I can tell you, without
Yeah.
exception, where I come from, Havana, Cuba. I mean, the Catholic Church was wiped out. I mean, yeah,
Yes.
the Pope
Yes.
will go visit, but the practicing of Judaism, organized religion, is frowned upon by leftist communists. So my question to you is, do you get the sense that in America, government wants to inculcate values and they see religious institutions as competitors?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Because I mean, my opponent voted to allow even local governments on a bill. She voted to allow local governments to shut down churches, and what you call an emergency situation.
Hmm.
But who determines the what an emergency situation is?
Mhm.
The people shutting you down. So, where is that fairness? Where's that separation of church and state? When they want it, it's there. But when they want to interfere with the church, then all of a sudden they want to have that freedom to do that. So I think it's very hypocritical. They'll say it when it's uh, benefiting them, but then they go and vote, and it's on her website. It's not something that's hard to find. She's a very nice person, easy to talk to, but her voting record is terrible. We have friends from Venezuela, we have friends from Cuba. We hear about all that, and you just have to look across the border to see how governments want to shut down people of faith. The same thing's happening here. It's institutionalized in that party.
Well, Benny, I would say that we are already in an emergency situation in the way that we're
Yes.
seeing the country.
Yes, yes, I have to agree, and I think that's why you see more Latinos running for offices here in North Texas than you've ever seen before.
And South
Uh,
Texas the
you,
same.
as exactly, because we have family and friends that are going through it. We know the people that have told us, uh, you know. Uh, Biden wants to keep these borders open, but when it happens to be Cubans, all of a sudden he wants to stop them,
Yeah,
because he knows Cubans speak up about the situations in the communist countries or
correct.
Venezuelans. All of a sudden he turned his tune. And so, being in the Latino community, you're aware of these things where some people are not aware of these things, how they hypocritically pick and choose the immigrants they want coming over here. And so we're very sensitive to that, and we see how it. I mean, the the pandemic, all these rules that they did, closing the churches, they really hurt the churches a
Mm-hmm.
lot. We lost 3,200 minority businesses through this pandemic just in our county. 3,200 minority businesses because of this shutdown. How do you get that back? It's going to take a long time, and they want to do more. They want to do more control. They don't want to go back. They're doubling down. And so we have to step up. We have to step up to stand for our neighbors because they're not. Like I said, my opponent has a house on the other side of Dallas. She's not here experiencing crime or pollution or the problems of this district with us.
Tell us the demographic in your district.
Okay, up as far north, it's up to Keast Boulevard. From DBU, Dallas Baptist University, you can drive on Keast Boulevard east all the way to Christ for the Nations. Okay, and then you have 67 and 35. They kind of come together. Then you can go down 35 all the way to Pleasant Run, and then Pleasant Run go sort of southwest to Beltline, and Beltline loops all the way around. You've got Grand Prairie south of 20. So you get pretty much all of Duncanville. Part of on the east side, you get DeSoto. On the west, you have Grand Prairie south of 20, and then Dallas up to uh, the that street, Keys Park Boulevard,
Yeah, but
Keys
that's the
Boulevard.
area. Tell us the demographic. I mean, how many the
Okay.
population and the Latino population are there voting normally more conservative or just tell us more
Well,
about
yeah,
the background of the demographic in your
it's a
area.
blue. Yeah, it's a pretty strong blue district, and it's changing. You've got about 45% black, about 30% Latino, and then the rest Caucasian. And but we're getting lots of support. Um, from all demographics right now. I've spoke um, to many black parents already about DeSoto High School. You know, it doesn't matter about the color of your skin. They want good education for their children. They want to know their children are going to be able to get a job and make it in this world. And when the trustees do not listen, they took away the STEM program after the state had paid for it for 5 years. The state asked them that we're going to let you run this for a year because you really didn't manage it that well. Instead of trying harder and taking the advice of the state, they just canceled it and didn't replace it with anything. So, you know, we have to be able to, I think the state rep has to be able to say, you know what, you're getting state funds. I'm here hearing from parents. They're concerned about the education that their children are receiving in your district. Uh, can you tell me what you're going to do about it? Be present. Talk to people. Don't be afraid to ruffle the feathers by representing the people in your district. So we're getting a lot of support. Yesterday we were at an event on Main Street in Duncanville, and Governor Abbott was there. He spoke to us. We spoke to him. We talked about a lot of things that need to be done in the area. He grew up in Duncanville, and we had a great turnout, and all people were there. Faith Johnson, that's running for DA, she said she'll put those people cutting the catalytic converters off all our cars in jail. Those people walking out with your laptop from the back seat of your car in jail, and make it where people don't feel comfortable just to do that and feel they're, just going to get a slap on the wrist.
Benny, tell us about your issues and what has been the feedback from your community about your last issue, which is support medical freedom, no vaccine mandates. So, but tell us, let's go from each issue, and then I'm
Okay.
curious, what is the feedback on the last one?
Are you okay? Well,
I'm in your
did you want to
website,
go?
so I'm reading your issues.
Okay. Well, the first one I believe is the education. Again, um, education. We have to have some choice. We have open districts over here. We have open districts, and in the public arena, some districts are open, and people are crossing those districts to get better education. It's up to those districts to put the limits and the standards that people can come into their districts for, and to maintain the standards that they're doing. Um, because you do not want to just let uh, people come into the different districts that aren't going to maintain those standards. So we believe in open districts. The money should follow the child.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing is keeping as a state rep, and I want to emphasize that because sometimes people ask this question of a U.S. congressman, and that's out of their realm.
Mhm.
A state rep is here on the ground in the state, and they need to be present talking to the districts, the school districts. Let me give you an example. My niece, she was a teacher. She started working at a school in DISD, and they put two classrooms in with her. And she was a new teacher, a very good student, went to school here in Dallas, got her degree, but she could not handle, 45 children, which I believe is breaking the rules. So she ended up resigning because it was unmanageable. And so things like that get back to me, and I'm like, well, why are we breaking the rules? I thought the limit was 30 people, 30 children in
And
a
that's
room.
still a lot.
A lot. And God bless her, she's still helping out in the community, and she's helping with Montessori schools where they're not putting so much on the teachers. But that's a personal experience that my family has gone through. My mom was a teacher. She pioneered a lot of the bilingual education here in Dallas. They used to give bonuses for bilingual teachers, $3,000 stipends. They stopped that, So we question that. Why are you stopping this? They say they're putting it into other programs, but then that's as far as it goes. We don't hear about those other programs. So I can tell you for sure they stopped those stipends coming in to hire bilingual teachers. So these are things that are on the ground. A state rep needs to be very close to the issues that are going on. Um, let's look at pro-life, pro-family. Here in Dallas, we have the Bishop's Dinner for the Catholic churches, and it's a pro-life event, fundraiser, and we love to attend that. We encourage people to attend. It happens every year. We had to stop it for a little while because of the pandemic, but Catholics, Protestants attend that event. We come together for those events, even though we go to different churches, because we have similar values. And a lot of Latinos attend those events and believe in those events, and support those events. So that's where pro-family and pro-life are with Latinos.
Benny, we're gonna have our producer reading one of the questions that we've been getting.
Yeah, we got a question
Okay, sure.
from a viewer. This is from Paulo James Jr. He's got a question. What is your prescribed remedy to making school district administrators and other public officials accountable for misuse of taxpayers' funds?
Okay, great. Well, I can tell you, unlike my opponent that I'm running against, I will say to them, look, I'm your state representative. You have been given money by the state to do certain things. If you don't respond, sooner or later, they're going to pull back on that money. And then you need to be a voice for the parents. You need to include parents. That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm listening to parent groups right now in DeSoto ISD. And then you need to use your position, use your voice to say these people are not doing what they should be doing. A lot of it is prescribed by the state when they give you money, what to do with it. The problem is they're not using it in the right way. I gave you an example. DISD receives $75 million to do after school bilingual tutoring and English tutoring. The state had to ask for the money back before they started moving on any of it. Well, the state rep the state reps in that area, because Dallas DISD is so big, should be talking to those school administrators and conveying the pressures of the parents onto those school administrators. It's about being involved in your community, especially if you're the state rep, getting on next door neighbor, going to the school meetings and saying, we have a problem here. The state rep can get in touch with these school administrators and can put pressure if they're willing to, if they're not afraid to wave, ruffle feathers, you might say. The problem is we've got a lot of absentee state reps not doing their job, not getting involved in their community. And so my opponent makes it fairly easy for me just to say, do what's right, instead of doing nothing.
But Benny, it's something very important that you're saying, getting involved. And not only the state representative need to get involved in the community, but the community need to get involved. As parents, we need to get involved in the education of our kids. And I think the school districts are putting apart and pushing away the parents to getting involved with their education of their kids. So we need to bring that back. And we are the voice because we are the one that paying for education.
Exactly.
They're not paying
Exactly.
us to bring our kids over there. We are paying to take our kids over there. And those is not such a thing called free education in this country. We're paying taxes for that.
Exactly. The
We're paying
taxpayers
their
are wrong.
salaries.
Exactly, exactly. I yesterday when I was able to talk to a lot of people, I said, I'm interviewing right now to be uh, your employee, to be your servant,
Yeah.
and they said, well, that's different,
Mm-hmm.
because some people said they hadn't seen their state rep in 6 years. I was talking to the local Chamber of Commerce people in the area. They said, every once in a while she'll send a as an assistant. We're doing Celebrate Duncanville here on the 24th, and a lot of us are going to show up for that. Uh, uh, they had a big alumni event at DBU, Dallas Baptist University, down the street from us, and a lot of they had a table for a lot of the city council and school board. None of them showed up. Me and Calvin Castillo, he's running to be congressman in this area. I'm running to be state rep. We were the only ones that showed up,
Mm-hmm.
and so the president of the university was very disappointed. We have absentee politicians that are taking their jobs for granted, and they're not showing up. So I'm not going to say I have some grand plan to restore DeSoto ISD, but I will put the pressure on those trustees to use that state money correctly. Um, my goodness, they tried to hire a new um, uh, superintendent that had just got kicked off the school board in Lancaster.
Mm.
He had been removed by the Texas Board of Education for misappropriations, and they tried to hire. His name was Larry Lewis. And you can look that up. It's very well documented. He had gotten removed by the Texas Board of Education for misappropriations, and DeSoto went out and almost hired him. A lot of the parents said, "What's going on here?" They knew this person had done some things and was removed. Why are you trying to hire them? I would be in there getting involved, asking those same questions.
Mm-hmm.
You're providing a platform right now. I'm doing it right now by talking about these issues, by bringing them to light. I would do just what I'm doing right now. I would do it as your state rep and bringing light to these issues. It's not rocket science. It's no es duro hacer esto. I'm getting passionate, so some of my Spanish wants to come out, and so my
No,
hands are
es
moving. You
duro quiere
can't see
decir
them.
que sí hay que trabajarlo, pero no es imposible.
No es posible. No es
No es
imposible.
imposible.
No es imposible. Pero,
Correcto.
we can do this. We're doing it right now on your program. We're bringing light to issues that are in our community that need to be taken care of. And if we don't do it, nobody else will do it, because I can tell you my opponent's been there 28 years. Her friend, Eddie Bernice Johnson, she's retiring, and we've got 6 conservative candidates running at that position. I'm the only one and a conservative running in my district for this position. But then in November, I'll have to run against a very strong Democrat. So I need all the support I can get. And I'll take every opportunity like this one to give voice to the people about issues that are affecting our communities. So
Talk
I
about
thank you very
the
much.
very controversial issue, which is the freedom of no vaccine mandate.
Yes, yes. Let me give you another personal experience, because I think the best examples I can give you are personal examples and on my family and my community. I'll start by saying 87.5% of the black population did not feel comfortable with taking these vaccines. Many of the Latinos in our community did not feel comfortable with this. But my personal experience with the mandates hit home one day when uh, the the people my wife works for called her up, and let me explain. She's a nurse. She runs a clinic, and for the city of Dallas, and they allowed her to give her immunities. She would check her immunities every week and report that. Then one day she got a call saying, out of the blue, saying, "I'm sorry, Angelica. Your last day is going to have to be the start of February." And she asked, well, "What's the problem? What was there any issues?" She constantly gets the highest ranking at her clinic out of all the clinics in the city, and they said, "No, there's no issue," because they were using the right to work, right to let go clause in Texas. It's a right to work. So they didn't even give her a reason why they let her go. So when she came home that day, she told me, and I said, "Do you think it's maybe because you haven't got the shot yet?" And we just looked at each other.
Yeah.
So my wife has a heart murmur, okay? It's a little issue with her heart. And so she did a lot of research. She's got her master's. She's a nurse practitioner. She's a heart specialist. And we looked into it, and she said, "I think I'll be okay if I just take the one shot. I think I'll be okay." So she took the one shot and reported it to her company. Lo and behold, in about 2 or 3 days, they called her and said, "Oh, by the way, we've reconsidered. You can keep your job."
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Now, when this stuff hits your household, okay, when you look at the income to your household being cut all of a sudden, I'm not looking at running for this campaign. We've got 2 daughters and one son. Uh, they're going. One's going to high school. One's going to college. The other one's helping me. They're all helping me with my campaign. But this hit home.
Yeah.
This hit home. This was going to cut our income so drastically. There's a lot of people out there with this same story.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was working at Dillard's. They were going to let 30 people go. I ran up there with the Texas Workforce Commission letter that they sent out to all the businesses in Texas that's saying it was illegal to fire someone for not being vaccinated. Okay. And those 30 jobs were saved,
Yeah.
just for that. But they had already identified that's why they were going to let them go. In my wife's case, they wouldn't identify why they were going to let her go. But after she reported she had that shot, 2 or 3 days,
They reconsider.
reconsider, because
So,
she's one of the
every
best, and
business as
she's
we're
bilingual,
oh,
and
imagine.
she's bilingual. So
Imagine,
they
and
have
we
no,
need we
yes,
need people to work. I mean, we have a crisis of all the companies and business are having trouble to fire people. I mean, to hire people because it's no
yes,
people that want to work. And on top of that, if they add that they have to come with the vaccine. So I don't know where we're going.
yes. And so I think now, I don't know if you've noticed, but they're pulling back a little bit because they see the numbers
Yeah.
and they know an election's around the corner. So you're going to see these real liberal media sort of pull back on the mask mandates, pulling back a little bit on their demands of, vaccine mandates, because they're trying to give their candidates room.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to hold them accountable for what happened, before, and what's still happening to a lot of people. There are some people that, are deathly scared of taking the vaccine, you know,
Yeah.
and so we have to respect freedom. There's not a clause in the Constitution that you lose your freedom during a pandemic. There's not a clause there in our Constitution that you lose your freedom during that. There's not a clause in there saying you can shut down churches during a pandemic. and we need to respect that because when people get too much power like that, as we've seen in Cuba, as we've seen in Venezuela and many other countries, they don't want to give the power back. They don't
No,
want to give that power back.
of course not.
So,
When we lose it, it's gonna be really hard to take it back.
and I'm glad I'm able to talk to you because I believe you understand that.
I
A
totally
lot of
understand.
people,
I'm coming from Colombia, and Colombia, it's not the country that it used to be before. We're dealing now that socialism is a pandemic in Latin America, and we see Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua. Look at what is going on in Mexico and
yeah,
Ecuador. Everywhere this is a pandemic, and now we're very worried about that in Colombia because our next door neighbor is Venezuela.
yes, and we need to realize a lot of the money that is coming behind this is probably cartel money.
Of
A lot of
course,
that is cartel money. A lot of it's this dark money that is pushing to get. I mean, who benefits from the most from getting less police, weakening our police forces? The
the
cartels.
criminals, the
They're
criminals in general.
exactly. We had reports of cartels switching. Some of them are switching to do more um uh, uh, human trafficking. They're making more money on that than the drugs. So some of the cartels are starting to do more human trafficking than the drugs. They're
Of
switching
course,
over
of course,
because the human marketing, the human trafficking, the industry is growing so fast, and we don't see Democrats or, on the national level or the local level really coming out and speaking out against it. We don't see that. Um,
All right,
so
Benny. Well,
it,
we're
it,
running
it
out of time. We're about to finish the program. I wanted you do your call to action, how people can help you. I mean, you said that your real battle is going to be in the general election, but you need to start
yes.
getting the voice out, and people get to know you from now on. So please tell how people can help you, find you, and get in touch with you in your community.
Yes, please go to Benny Flores for Texas. It's all spelled out. BennyFloresForTexas.com, and go to the events part of that website. We have our events listed there. We have things about cleaning up our community that we will be there. Um, volunteer to get in the community with us. We're having two events to clean up our communities. We're having events to celebrate our communities. Stay informed. We're having an event here coming up on the 22nd at Dallas Baptist University about international justice and how we can stop human trafficking. Uh, Different events like that. So just see my events calendar, go on there and volunteer, let me know, and we will welcome you into our arms. And we'll get out there, win or lose. We will make our community better by bringing everything to light the way we're doing right now.
And of course, donations are very important in campaigns. And I want to remind everybody that we're still in early voting. Early voting started in February 14 and it goes through February 25th. And March 1st are the primaries. But then we have the general election. So we have a lot of months for you, Benny, to campaign. And of course, you count with
Yes.
us in Texas Latino Conservatives for our support.
Y gracias para la ayuda. Gracias para el support. I speak a little Spanglish there.
No, está bien. Muchas gracias a ti por tu tiempo y mucha suerte y aquí estamos para ayudarte.
Thank you.
Okay, Benny, gracias. And thank you so much, everybody. Please visit us also in TexasLatinoConservatives.com, TexasLatinoConservatives.com. Not only campaigns need donations, but also we need donations to be able to do this program, all the events, and of course, Latino leadership, that Leadership Latino, that we also help candidates or people that want to run for office to go through the whole process. We teaching them. We go to different cities to help them out. We go to San Antonio. We went to San Antonio, and recently we went to El Paso. That it was a very, very good turnout. So please help us to help Texas Latino Conservatives. Also, we have around the corner, we're gonna have our Tough Tejano Awards. Gonna be in San Antonio in April 5th. So please go check it out in our website and visit us over there. It's gonna be a lunch. It's gonna be a lot of good people. We're gonna have Chingo Blin, and we're gonna have a lot of good things. And this is very important, not only for the Latinos but for our state of Texas. So I'll see you guys next Wednesday with Orlando Sanchez and TLC Live. Again, TexasLatinoConservatives.com. Visit us y nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Chao, chao.